Hi there, little berries. This is Bear here. Now, it has been quite some time, and I do apologise. You all know, what I experienced in April, and I've been trying to focus a lot on my true crime channel recently, and I've decided just to, really go for it on YouTube now. There's so many things that I want to say, so many things I want to do, and this is something I haven't done for a long time, which is a reaction video. Now, I'm going to try and be as fair as I can in this. Now, if you're in the UK and you watched the UK version of X Factor 8 years ago now, you will recognise the name Zoe Alexander. Now, she was a Pink tribute artist, and she went to the X Factor to show them what she could do, and her audition became one of the most well-known auditions in the UK because it showed her having an almighty temper tantrum. And I think you can imagine, what that did for her afterwards. It would be the most humiliating thing to have yourself shown up on national TV like that. And she was in the papers and everything. And she now has her own YouTube channel. She is now an artist in her own right. I don't think she's a Pink tribute artist anymore. I mean, she's got longer hair now and everything. But it's not just the hair, it's the act, isn't it? So she's doing really well for herself. She's got quite a few subscribers. And she has just, I think, only a few weeks ago, she released... I don't think she released it as a single, but she did it as a video, a single called Fire that she wrote and performed herself, and it's really good. I really would recommend that you watch it, and the best of luck to her. Now, only a few weeks ago as well, she released 2 videos, about 3 weeks apart, and they were about the truth about her truth about what happened on the X Factor. Now, I watched it eager to know what her side of things were. And I have to say, I'm on the fence because she seems to be coming across as really, she seems to be coming across as, I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. Everything was made up and I was made to look bad. I completely agree that shows like the X Factor, because there's multiple cameras and everything, and the stuff they can do with technology these days is amazing, that they can edit anything. We know that as YouTubers. You can edit anything and change it. The editing is really what makes something. However, she is claiming that certain things were edited that I personally believe couldn't be done. I'm nothing personal against Zoe. I just don't think she's being entirely truthful. I have some skepticism, so let's dive in and analyse this.
Start at the beginning, I suppose. I applied online. I did apply. A lot of people asked me whether I applied or whether they approached me. I applied. I sent a video in online, like those people do. And then I got a phone call inviting me down to the head office in London of Thames TV.
Which they confirmed by email, and here it is.
Okay, so first thing I want to say is I really love her look now. She really has moved away from Pink, and I love her hair. It's amazing. So I do think at this point, she's being very, very candid, and she's telling us what happened right at the very beginning, which is a good start. So she sent in a video. Now, I presume that was herself as Pink doing her Pink tribute artist act. Now, I haven't seen it, and the only performance I've seen from hers, other than what she's got on her channel, of her being a Pink tribute artist is what we see on the X Factor. Yeah, I mean, that's usually the way that it works, and people don't just turn up on the day. You have to officially apply for it, and you have to not just say, I can sing, can I come along? And they're like, yeah. You have to show, that you can do something. However, we know, having watched the X Factor, there are some acts, sorry, my phone keeps going off, put it over there. We do know that there are some acts that are really not good. And if the audition process is exactly as Zoe describes, it's seemingly quite amazing to me that people who, let's just say, are a little deluded, actually end up on stage. And is it really for entertainment purposes? Do the producers and everybody know that it's going to be bad? Or is it a case of it's done this way to make it look like it's an open audition? We can only assume.
I went down there and sang it. It was just a boring office, to be honest with you. Nothing special at all. Bit underwhelming. Went into a little room, sang in front of a couple of producers. They got to choose out of everyone who was there who went to sing for the Sony woman. I got chose to go and sing in front of the Sony woman. Went and sang in front of her. I sang Jessie J, Nobody's Perfect.
Simon Cowell's X Factor is not a fair competition. In fact, it's not a competition at all. Thames TV and Sony Records decide who will be successful long before the auditions take place.
Yeah, I believe that. And she does this a lot throughout this video. She puts extra cards on there, which great technique. I think it's really, really good. So yeah, I mean, most auditions take place like that. If you remember 2 decades ago, when Hearsay, the band, were manufactured, the not Pop Idol, it was called Pop Stars, that was it. Those auditions were pretty much as Zoe describes here. There are preliminaries. It's not a case of it's not a fair competition, because anybody can turn up and compete. It's just what you see on telly is not the beginning. It's several auditions have already taken place. And again, going back to, there are some people who go on the X Factor, sorry if I sound condescending when I say that, who aren't very good. How do they get past the preliminaries?
A week or so later, I got a phone call from the producer of the X Factor inviting me to the CIA in Cardiff to sing in front of the judges. He said to me I had to email them 5 songs that I wanted to sing on the day. So I sent them this.
As you can see in my choices, no Pink songs.
Great choice of songs. I think those would have really suited her voice, and I can definitely see that here she was trying to get away from Pink, so she wouldn't have given them a Pink song. Every act is asked to supply 5 tracks. Now, it kind of baffles me as to why they're given 5 tracks, but I suppose it's because it gives them a freedom of choice. But if we remember Zoe's audition, she got to sing 2 songs. And the first one she chose was a Pink song. Now, she's going to get into that right now about how that happened. But she had 5 songs selected. Not exactly this list. I think one was taken out and replaced with a Pink song. Could she not have chosen any of the others first? Did she have to sing a Pink song? But let's find out.
Within hours, he'd rung me back saying to me that they wanted me to sing a Pink song. He basically said that if I didn't, I wouldn't be going on the show. But he made it sound pretty good. He bolstered it up and said that I was used to singing Pink songs. I was good at singing Pink songs. They'd love it if I sang a Pink song. It'd go down so well if I sang a Pink song.
I completely believe her. That they said to her, it would be great if you sang a Pink song. However, she is saying that he basically told her that she wouldn't go on the show unless she sang a Pink song, but he made it sound like he was encouraging her. Now, that is her interpretation of what he said. It's not actually what he said, according to her narrative. He was trying to sell it to her. Now, I can understand why the producers would want her to sing a Pink song, because they'd seen a video of her, and obviously she was really good. And we've seen her on the X Factor. She is good. And her YouTube channel is a testament to that. This will actually showcase your vocals and what you can do better. Maybe they like the idea of her being an impersonator and like the idea of her starting out as an impersonator and moving into her own direction. But at this point, I don't see it as a huge issue. And he says a Pink song. And a bit later, she shows an updated list, and the song "So What" is now the top one. And Zoe says that is the song they wanted her to sing, but here she says a Pink song. She doesn't specify. I mean, if they said to her, sing the song "So What," she could have easily have said, well, can I not sing this or whatever, the song that she is best at singing, because that will really show them what she can do. Now, I'm building to a point. Please bear with me. I'm building to a point as she is building to her point. So, and it's all going to come together. So let's carry on.
This is the email I sent, now including So What, the song they insisted I sang if I wanted to take part in the show.
Then I got my email saying what time to arrive on the day and whatnot. It was all normal, but seemed normal to me. Pretty good. I was really excited. And then the day came. It was audition day. I got up at 4 a.m. to arrive in Cardiff for 6 a.m. So I was up at 4, getting my hair done. They told me to come really glam, but I just sort of wore what I'd wear on a night out.
Okay, just a little bit of a problem with that. That email didn't look like it was specifically written for her, but you never know. It could have just been that. But then if they said to all of the acts all arrive at the same time, then they'd all flood in, you know, and it would be a bit difficult. So they probably would stagger people during the day. She is building to a point here that she's saying that because they told her to start at 6 a.m, that was a way of getting her tired, that to wear her down, because when she arrived, there was nobody there until about 8:30. I don't know if that's true or not, or whether they had other people had arrived, seen nobody else was there, and just gone off for a little bit and then came. It could be that other people did arrive, but it was very few people that were selected to be there as early as that. Oh, and she says they told her to come really glam. I don't know. In any of the emails, it doesn't say come really glam. It doesn't tell her what to wear. And I don't think the X Factor would say to people come really glam, because we've seen people go there and they don't look glam, or they just look casual. Maybe they told her to come really glam because that would make her look like her act. I don't know. At the time, she had short blonde hair. That is another point I'm going to build to, because she says she would wear what she would wear on a night out. Now, I'm presuming on a night out she would do some Pink impersonations. Not necessarily, but if she were going out on a night out wearing what she was wearing on the X Factor, I would instantly think Pink. Even if she hadn't said, I'm a Pink tribute artist, I would instantly think of Pink.
So we wandered around the CIA, which is pretty big, and we couldn't find anyone. So we eventually went to the box office, and there was some security guards in there who let us in. And they let us sit in the box office because there was no one else about. So we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And eventually, probably 8:30 in the morning, 2.5 hours after we got there, the X Factor staff rocked up. They took us to a room to sit in, and we sat there for a while, and then they eventually took us upstairs to another room where we were met by other acts.
Now, one thing I'm going to say here is one of the hobbies I've got myself into recently is statement analysis. And I'm going to do some videos based on that. Now, I'm not a professional. I just am reading books at the moment because I find it quite interesting. I'm not very good at reading body language, whereas linguistics is a bit more my area. So I'm looking into that. Now, she's building a narrative. She's building a story. And it's all going to converge on a particular point that she's going to make much later if you've watched this video. Is she's saying to us, we were taken to the box office, nobody knew we were there, we waited and we waited, we were taken into another room to sit in. Why she had to say to sit in, I don't know, and then we were taken up to another room. So she's really bit, you know, if you were telling a friend this story, you probably would just go, well, yeah, we arrived really early and nobody else was there, but eventually we were let into the box office, waited a bit, and then we were shown up to a couple of rooms, and that's how you would tell it. But she's really going into detail here. She's really trying to persuade us that loads of things happen in a short space of time, and it was this and it was that and it was this and it was that. Basically, this kind of describes somebody's nightmare who is really impatient and going, what on earth is happening today? Seems like a huge amount of things to go through just to do one audition in front of the judges for one day. So let's carry on.
We had to sign some things before going into another room.
Again, unnecessary.
And then we waited. And then we waited. And then we waited.
Sorry, one more thing. Just every act that goes on the X Factor has to wait. That's how auditions roll. They can't see everybody at once. There has to be a queue. There has to be an order. People have to wait, and it happens in all of show business. Auditions for parts in films, when people go to be signed to record companies, there could be many acts there that need to be seen, and people have appointments. You have to wait. It's part of life. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that they were being mean to you. It's just what is entailed in this. It's not plain sailing. Sorry, it's not. Especially in show business. Any business, but show business is brutal. And you are going to be waiting a while, and you are going to be pissed off, and you are going to have your patience tried.
Once we were in the room, we weren't allowed to leave. They didn't give us anything to drink. We weren't allowed to leave to get a drink. You weren't allowed to leave for any reason. You had to stay in this room.
Okay, I can get that to a certain degree about security, and she's not saying if anyone else had turned up to audition. But I don't find that easy to believe. Now, yes, as I said, it is brutal, but they can't make somebody stay in a room. They can't tell someone you can't leave for any reason. If people wanted to leave, they had every right to leave. To deny somebody the basic needs of having a drink or even going to the toilet or needing some air if it's getting a bit stuffy or whatever, because there are people who can't deal with that. And even if you are in show business, as I said, if you said, look, I'm sorry, but I have to go to the loo, what if you were unwell? What if you were about to be sick? I don't want to say she's lying, but it's just difficult to believe that would be the case.
They interviewed a few people. Finally, it was my turn. Once I was in the hot seat to be interviewed, all he wanted to talk about was Pink. Have you seen Pink live? Do you know Pink's real name? Do you think you're like Pink in real life? It was just Pink, 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 Pink. I was in shock. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there trying to answer his questions. And finally, he asked a few questions about me. He asked me how I got into singing and things like that. I said to him, it was really hard for me to get into singing because I wasn't very confident. And the first time I ever got on a stage, I ran straight off because everyone was looking at me because I was terrified.
So the interviewer wanted to talk about Pink. I can understand that to a degree, but again, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because that's a huge part of her life. That's kind of like a gateway into knowing who she is, because saying, how did you get into all of this and etc. Now she's saying I went on stage to sing and ran off because everyone was looking at me. I'm sorry, but what did you expect? I appreciate you were a kid, but when you go on stage, people are going to look at you. They're not going to go like that. They're not going to turn around. They're going to look at you. That's what human beings do. If someone is in a position of needing attention, they'll look at them like I'm looking at you right now. I can't see your faces, but I'm looking at the camera, looking at you. She's looking at her camera. That's what we do as human beings. Now, it seems to me that she probably suffered from like she said, confidence, a huge amount of stage fright. So for her to become a Pink tribute act is a huge step. And kudos to her for overcoming that. But maybe there was something underlying there, which is a fear of failure, maybe? A fear of too much attention, potentially.
The thing is, I was bullied in school. I was bullied really badly in school. And it made my confidence levels drop. And
I'm really sorry to hear that she was bullied in school. Me too. And it does, it affects you forever, because it affects your confidence when you're a kid. It has a knock-on effect as an adult.
I didn't like speaking to people. I didn't like doing anything. I was a bit of a hermit. I didn't have many friends, and he somehow turned that around to Pink. He said, "Do you think Pink was bullied in school?" I was so upset. I think there is some of that footage on the X Factor audition video, and you can see I got tears in my eyes because I was just so upset. I couldn't believe it.
So he kept talking about Pink and it was upsetting her. She could have said to him, "Can we just stop talking about Pink, please? This is upsetting me." Or she could have said earlier on, "Why are you asking me about Pink? Let's talk about me." She could have turned it around herself. When you're being interviewed, one person's asking questions, the other one was answering, but at the same time the interviewee does have the power to say, "Can we stop that line of questioning? Because it's affecting me. That's not what I'm here for." Now, she says later on that she was being interviewed for at least an hour. Maybe it seemed like an hour, but I find it hard to believe that a producer would spend 1 hour or more than an hour, which she's insinuating here, with one contestant. Time is precious. That there would be loads of different people there, and so much more for a producer to do than just interview people. He would have had to have gone through several people. And an hour is a huge chunk of a day for auditions. That, I think, with respect, is exaggerated. That's just my opinion.
Depicting me as an emotional fool.
As soon as I
No. She did not look like an emotional fool. If you watch the footage, everybody knows whenever you watch X Factor, people do cry. And people don't sit there going, "Oh, for crying out loud." I mean, some people do. But I certainly don't. When I see people in tears on the X Factor, it's because they want it. It's because of passion. And I'm pretty sure most people agree with that. But nobody's going to say there, "You stupid fool, what are you crying for?" If anyone had any kind of empathy, they would know that this is a big deal. Tears are going to come. So, no. That's how you saw yourself, Zoe, I think. I think that's how Zoe perceived herself to look, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how people saw her. There's a difference. So she is showing how she thinks she looked, and other people may have different opinions. I have a different opinion. I didn't see her as a fool at all.
I went upstairs to another little room. I went in. There was Caroline Flack and a cameraman. I think she could see that I was visibly upset at this point, and she asked me if I was okay. I said I was okay, but I was really thirsty because...
I don't remember... I don't think that was shown on there, but I'm not quite sure she went into a room with Caroline and a cameraman specifically after she'd been interviewed for an hour by a producer. So, I'm not quite sure, but just want to say, rest in peace, Caroline.
We hadn't had a drink in hours. No one was allowed to go out for any reason. So anyway, she gave me her water. I thought that was so nice because she had about this much water left in a bottle.
She gave you specifically water. I think the way that Zoe's saying here is that everybody else was in the same boat. She's moved on to say nobody was allowed to go out for any reason. Other acts would have been thirsty too, and especially singing. You need lubrication in the throat, And why would she specifically give her water when other people would have probably been feeling the same way? It seems like, again, it's just building to a point of, with respect, all about me. That's what it's building to, that, I was worse off than everybody.
So anyway, she sent the cameraman off to get some more water because there was no water left. And
then who was holding the camera?
I was pretty thirsty. I mean, I guess she wanted a drink of water. And she asked me again if I was okay. And I said, yeah, I'm okay. But something feels a bit off. And she said, "You can leave if you want to." And I looked at her, and she said, "Well, it's industry. There are other ways to make it in this industry, and if you feel like this is not right, you can leave."
I don't think Zoe would have been the first person to have said that probably to Caroline Flack. I don't think she would be the first person who didn't feel right there. And if I were working on a show like this, again, I can't say for sure because I don't know what it's like. A lot of people would say to you, and I'm sure you've had people say the same thing to you, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just go out there and show them what you can do. You'll be fine." Encouraging people to leave. I don't know that I fully believe that.
I just kind of laughed it off because I was so excited. It was so.
Okay, she was excited, but she didn't. It was so amazing, but she didn't feel right. How was she actually feeling? If something was a bit off, but she was a bit excited, then, and she was a bit upset about being asked about Pink, there must have been a huge plethora of different emotions and feelings going through her at the same time, and I must admit it would be very confusing and overwhelming for her, definitely. But if she really wanted it, she'd go for it, even if no water, even if it didn't feel right, she'd go for it.
But when I thought about it after, I think that she was trying to give me a message. I think she knew that I was there for bad reasons, and she was trying to help me. And I wish I'd listened to her. So then I was whisked downstairs, back to my family and friends. They picked out my mum and dad. My friends had to stay in the room of no return. And they took us outside to the audience queue, pretending that we were queuing to go and audition.
Now here I believe everything she's saying, and she's saying it in a very matter-of-fact, truthful manner. If someone's telling the truth, they don't overlace things with information that is either irrelevant or make something seem bigger than it actually is. She's being factual here, and I can completely believe that the X Factor did that. They would of course want people to believe that it's an open audition, that they don't say no to anybody. She then describes Dermot O'Leary ignoring her but talking to her mum and dad. To be honest, I don't think that's really an issue. So I think she's just feeding into the fact that she felt like a piece of meat, like she felt, or maybe she felt that that he wasn't talking to her, that he was only talking to her parents, but actually he was talking to all of them. And then he looks up and down and says, "I get it, about the Pink thing," because she said in the audition she didn't base her look on Pink, and she said earlier in this she didn't base her look on Pink. If I'd seen her come on stage, I would have gone, "Wow, you look like Pink." And fun enough, Louis Walsh said that too.
So I went up onto the back of the stage into a little booth where you stood while you waited to be called on. While I was stood there, Ollie, one of the runners or producers or something, came up to me and gave me a little pep talk, and he said, "Make sure you use all of the stage, give the best performance you can give, and if the judges say no, beg them. Do whatever you can to get them to say yes. Cry. Get down on your knees and beg."
This is a huge need to persuade. I don't see that as an issue. We're going to hear a lot more about Ollie, the runner. I can completely understand that a runner would say that. Would probably say that to everybody. Use the stage. Beg them for a yes. Maybe they wanted it just for show. But at the same time, if you really do try, and they might change your mind, and it will actually help you. That's not really a big problem. But she is adding this into this whole conspiracy. I don't see it as a conspiracy. Again, I wasn't there. I'm only hearing what she's saying. But from what she's saying, to me, she's trying too hard to make it seem to me or the audience that's watching her video that everybody in the whole industry that day was in on something to do with her.
The X Factor producers were willfully directing me to break down on stage, showing their ultimate intentions for the conclusion of my audition.
As I walked onto the stage, I was greeted by four horrible faces. They were so hostile. It was unbelievable. And I mean, a lot of you have probably watched the X Factor on TV, and they seem so nice. They seem like it doesn't matter who you are. They're welcoming and they're friendly, and that was not what I was greeted by.
She goes on to say about editing and everything like that, but at the same time, they could edit out people being hostile, like she said, but there is a point where they start being nice to her. So did it completely flip at one point and they just edited out the bad part? But see it from the judge's point of view as well, is she's saying how it appeared to her, and again, don't forget, she's had a hard time in the past, so she might be conditioned to expect people to be like that, or think that somebody is being hostile and they're not. I mean, they didn't hurl abuse at her, it's just that they looked a bit miserable. And from the judge's point of view, they've been sat there for some time. They've seen act after act after act after act, and they see another person come on stage. It's difficult for them to go hi every single time. They do have to be very businesslike about it as well.
I felt this big face. I looked down at Louis and to Lisa and Nicole and Gary, and I just felt so small because they were all they were awful. Anyway, Louis was the first person to ask a question, and he asked me, which wasn't shown, that was cut out of the TV. He asked me what I would do with the money. There is no prize money. I replied, there is no prize money. I don't know what you mean.
When she says things were cut out, now, I'm not calling her an out-and-out liar here, but what I'm saying is, if somebody tells you this happened and there's no corroborating evidence, because we've not seen that footage, and unless you were in the audience yourself, you can say, yes, that happened, but we only have her word for it. It's an odd thing to say, what would you do with the money? I think when it comes to signing contracts with record companies, if it's like a £5 million contract or whatever, you don't get that money. That's just how much they're willing to spend on you. You'd get an advance of that, though. So it's not a bad question to ask, although it's not the best question. And if she said there's no prize money, I don't know what you mean. I can understand why that probably would have got Louis' back up. She probably would have said, oh, what, money from the deal, you mean, or something. But he didn't say prize money, apparently. He said, what would you do with the money? A lot of people who are successful in this industry become multi-millionaires. So she could have handled that a bit differently. I'm kind of halfway between her and Louis Walsh at this point, seeing it from both sides, if what she's telling is the truth.
And he moved on to tell me that I was very overconfident. Let me tell you, I was not overconfident. I was so scared, I was petrified. Then Gary went on to, which wasn't shown on TV, tell me about how much I was copying Pink and that I looked like Pink.
Actually, if you watch the footage, again, she could be right, it could have been edited. Louis is the first one to say, you look like Pink. Her being a Pink tribute act, she would have to keep her hair a certain way. Not just the way you dress and the way you have your hair. Physically, she kind of looked a bit like Pink. She had her features. Louis was the first one to say that we can see on telly, you look like Pink. And then she said, I'm a Pink tribute artist. If they already knew that she was a Pink tribute artist, why did Zoe volunteer that information? It could be that Gary did speak after, say, you look like Pink. Yeah, you seem to be really copying Pink. It doesn't seem like it's a bullying thing, it's just an observation. So let's carry on.
Bearing in mind, I had not really mentioned Pink at this point. And then they asked me what song I was going to sing.
Pretending they didn't already know.
No, I don't think the judges are as in the know as the X Factor, and this is just my opinion, because if they already know who's going to sing and who's not, why would they ask? Maybe it's all for show. Maybe it is just to make it look like the contestants are freely choosing their song. I doubt very much that the judges are briefed on everybody who's going to go on stage before they are part of a all-knowing thing. It'll be difficult for them to keep track of everybody, and they've got their notes and they've probably got the producers in their ears and stuff. But that again, that's not the point. Even if they did say, "So what are you going to sing?" Even if they did know, if you're in show business, you know that there are certain things that need to be for show. Again, it's not a bad thing.
And I said, "So what" by Pink, and I felt stupid saying it. And their faces when I said it, they were a picture. To my surprise, the audience absolutely loved it. Like, I was shocked. I wasn't looking at the judges, I was looking at the audience at the time, and they loved it. They were all having fun because it's a fun song. I mean, whether it's a singing song or not, it is fun, and everyone was having fun.
Looking at the footage, and sound can be edited in or out because they're on different tracks. Usually if someone is absolutely bringing the house down, you can see the audience up, you can hear them, the judges usually share the opinion of the audience. I think they did like it, but I don't think they were enjoying it as much as she says, because although it was good, it wasn't brilliant.
People were pretty shocked because they were there to have a good time, and we were all having a good time.
In the broadcast footage, the audience reaction has been completely changed. For example, when Talisa spoke...
So Talisa's lines were scripted. She looked directly at Zoe when she said, I think I'm looking at a Pink tribute artist. If this was scripted, then surely other people's auditions were scripted too, or predetermined. The judges are not paid actors. They're not there to read and remember lines. It certainly didn't look scripted to me. Yeah, fine, the noise could have been added in. That clapping and cheering was very faint. It wasn't overwhelming. But then it could be that because she was on the stage and certain microphones pick up certain noises, and the audience, don't forget, was in sort of like a half light, very dimly lit. She said she could look at them, she could see them. But that cheer was very, very small, so it could be that only a few people were making noise and she didn't see them, and she maybe didn't hear them because that noise was not being fed to her. So again, this, I think, is just from her point of view, but doesn't necessarily mean this is exactly what happened.
And then Gary stopped it and told me that he wanted me to sing a different song.
Which seems strange to me, as I was told I had to sing a Pink song.
Yeah, that's what the producers said, but the judges... but if this was a whole Pink conspiracy, Gary would have stopped it, like he did, and said no. They would have said, no, you're too much like Pink. Off. That probably would have pissed her off more. That the fact that they gave her a second song to sing, and it was on that basis that they made their decision... I'm sorry, Zoe, but the whole Pink thing, right from the beginning to the end, is a moot point. It's irrelevant because you sang a second song. If they really wanted to humiliate you, they would have stuck with the Pink song. Zoe had the opportunity to show them how she was singing with a non-Pink song. The fact that they gave her a second song to sing, and this was actually noted by Ofcom as well, not everyone gets that opportunity. They have impersonators on the show a lot, and some are good, some aren't good. But not all impersonators, even if they're good, or well, even if they're really bad, are not given the opportunity to sing a song not of the person whom they impersonate to showcase their vocals. Now, Zoe, her performance wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't bad. Her Pink performance wasn't bad. Zoe is building to a narrative to say that the producers knew she'd be crap, or knew that she wouldn't be able to do it, and therefore wanted to make her look really bad to get a massive reaction that they could edit cleverly and broadcast on telly, which sounds, if you say it that way, plausible. But why would they give her a second song if that was their aim? There are other ways to kick somebody off. I don't think they would have taken such huge actions. And I'm going to get onto Ofcom a bit later. The whole thing about Pink is moot. If she'd gone out there and just sang Emeli Sande Next to Me, it would have had exactly the same results. So maybe the whole thing about it was building up to Pink and then not singing a Pink song, that may have added to her being more and more annoyed. But I don't think that was the reason why she didn't get the yeses that she wanted.
When I got on the stage, the monitors, the on-stage monitors, so that the person on stage can hear, were on. As soon as the So What track started playing, the monitors were off, so I couldn't hear a thing because we're...
After looking at this, I did a bit more research and I found that Zoe complained, first of all, to ITV, and then she complained to Ofcom. It was determined that the monitors had not been switched off. And in addition, she says this of the Pink song and also the Emeli Sande song, that she couldn't hear anything. Well then, how did she know when to sing? Or did she say, hang on, I can't hear anything? Why didn't she say anything? That doesn't make sense.
And then when they stopped me, the monitors came back on. And then when I started singing the next song, the monitors went back off again. And the track that they played was not the track that I had sent them. It was in a different key and it was a different track to the track I had sent.
If you couldn't hear anything, how did you know it was a different track in a different key? You must have heard something, and even if they had turned it off and you were only hearing a very faint version of it, I mean, I don't have any ear for music, but I'm pretty sure she does. Again, why didn't she say something? ITV's response, and you can look this up on Ofcom's website, was that the tracks that the contestants send are loaded into a hard drive, and the contestants have a choice as to one of the 5 songs they're going to sing. Now, most contestants sing only one song. Then what's the point in having 5? You know, they don't show people, the audience at home, we give them a choice of 5 and they pick one. If it's just going to be one, you know, why give them 5? So yeah, I mean, they could have changed the track, but she could have said, hang on, this is not my track, this is in a different key. She could have said something, and she didn't.
The 4 of them just went on and on about Pink. Bearing in mind, the second song was not a Pink song. I didn't have a Pink hairstyle because Pink did not have that hair at the time. In fact, Pink, she adopted that hairstyle months after I had been on the X Factor. Before that, she never had a shaved side of her head.
Looking at the Ofcom response, it wasn't actually captured, it wasn't actually shown to the audience, but in the untransmitted footage, apparently, Zoe said she couldn't change her hair because of the gigs. Short blonde hair, that colour blonde hair, sort of like, it was slightly curly, slightly spiky. To me, that does say Pink. You know, and if you were a Pink tribute artist, why would you have a hairstyle that Pink doesn't have? You'd make your hair as much like hers as possible, unless you shaved that specifically for the audition. But apparently she did say to the X Factor, I can't change the hair because of the gigs. I'm sorry, but my opinion is that this is not right.
And I was not dressed like Pink. Pink had never wore H&M leggings and a Levi shirt. That was my look. I don't think Pink ever shopped in H&M.
It doesn't matter where trousers or leggings come from. Nobody's going to be concentrating on, what make they are. And H&M, it's a high street brand. Those kind of leggings, they look a bit like wet look leather-like leggings, and the shirt. It doesn't matter what the brand is; it's how it looks. The label wasn't sticking out, and you didn't tell everybody, oh, they're H&M. And other brands do those type of clothes too. And I have seen Pink on stage even before this wearing tight black trousers and boots and wearing a tie-up shirt. She's very stylish and funky, and she wears skin tight stuff because she's got a really sort of muscular physique. Sorry, not buying it.
I didn't go there with the intention of looking like Pink. I just wore a pair of H&M leggings and a Levi's shirt and had short blonde hair. It seemed obvious to me that they knew. They were, everyone that day, they were all primed to talk about Pink. Because every time you see someone with short blonde hair, you don't think of Pink. Not everyone who has that hairstyle is Pink, are they? They were clearly primed to, they were in on it.
With the greatest of respect to her, that's her opinion. I know she was there, she lived it that day, she's the subject of all of this, but she doesn't have proof or evidence that there was a conspiracy against her.
Bully me into being Pink all day.
The judges didn't bully her into being Pink, they gave her a second song. If they wanted to bully her into being Pink, they could have done it in a way worse way than they actually did, and they could have done it in a way different way. Giving her a second song was the very opposite of that.
I broke down. I suddenly realised that from the moment I got there, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when no one else was there, it was as if they had made that little email just for me, to get me there at 6 a.m, to tire me out, to break me down, and they continued to do so all day. And it was that moment that I had a breakdown. I tried telling them that it was them that told me to sing a Pink song, and I was talking to the producers. The judges pretended that I was talking to them.
No. The way that it was shown, I mean, fair enough, again, there could be editing, but you can't make something not come out of somebody's mouth. You can't make up footage of her saying, you guys told me to sing a Pink song, and that's what she says. I want it to be me, and you guys told me to sing a Pink song. Okay, well, why didn't she say that earlier? Why didn't she say to everybody, look, I'm not going to go with the Pink song now, I'm going to sing something else? And she was pointing at the judges, and yes, the judges are part of the programme, the producers are part of the programme. But she goes on in this video to say, to correct Talisa and say, no, not you, love, the producers. But why didn't she say that? Well, the producers told me to sing a Pink song. She points at the judges, and they didn't tell her to sing a Pink song. And the judges then go on to say several times, we gave you a second song, we gave you a second song. And the reason they are homing down on that point is because they gave her that second chance. Why would they give her that second chance to sing not a Pink song if everything was all about Pink? Being told no is not a bad thing. People go on this show and they're told no all the time. And being in show business, being a singer, being in the public eye, it's not all lovey-dovey. It's brutal. People will tell you no all the time. People will put you down all the time. People will be hating on you for no reason, even if they've never met you. It happens. And they just said no. She had a choice at that point to either beg, like she'd been told by Ollie, said, please, please, please put me through. Or she could have said, can I try again? Can I try another song? She could have just walked away with dignity. However seething she may have felt, however bullied she may have felt, even if you are pushed and pushed, you still are responsible for what comes out of your mouth and what actions you take. If it's something that is beyond your control, then there's something going on there. There's something having a mental breakdown and behaving like that is not... Yeah, that there's something going on. But in this case, her reaction was, but you told me to sing a Pink song. What she could have said was, but before coming on here, I was told I should sing a Pink song. The point of her singing what I was saying before about singing a Pink song is actually moot because of the second song. Pink is not the point. And if you've seen the audition, you'll see that Zoe behaves in a very unacceptable manner. However, it could be edited. Let's hear Zoe's version of that particular point of the audition.
And that was when I was talking to the audience and trying to explain to them how I'd been manipulated all day. And then I realised that they'd turned the microphone off. And that was when I threw it to the floor.
Okay, that's not quite what happened. There is a point that you can hear, though, if you watch the audition, where you can hear a noise or something like that. I'm not good at sound effects. So I can believe that they did turn the microphone off. She's saying it's because she would reveal everything to the audience. Now, she would have had to have gone on to talk for a long time to tell everybody in the audience what was going on, by which point security would have had to have escorted her off stage. But if they really wanted to make her look bad and rant and rave, they would have kept the microphone on. I think the reason they most likely did turn it off was because they wanted it to be over. They were like, no more. My opinion, as far as I can see, she did lie. She didn't say, the producers told me to sing a Pink song. And the way she said it was so defensive. It was like, hang on, the producers told me to sing a Pink song, and I did. But again, that's not the point. That's when the judges were saying, you sang a second song, and she was just standing there like... And then she walks off. Now, she says she threw the microphone to the floor, so let's hear more about that.
And I threw it like this to the floor. But somehow in the video I threw it like that. And I didn't. I threw it to the floor because...
Let's watch that, shall we? As you can see, frame by frame, she's walking off, and her arm looks like it's completely perpendicular to her body, and she's flinging it across. Now, the only thing I can say probably in her favour is that the camera angle does look like it's down looking up slightly, so she's up on an incline. So we may see it as being lateral, but she probably did intend to throw it to the floor. And if you see, she lets go of it before her arm is completely extended. If she had let it go when it was completely extended, it would have gone probably behind her, right to the other end of the stage or whatever. But she lets it go quite early, and I think that was her intention. I don't think she's lying here. Now, let's remember, lying is when you know what the truth is, but you say otherwise. From this point of view, and this is the case of many people when they give witness statements, for example, when you tell something from your point of view, it would differ from other people's simply because of points of view, because of your physical angle of seeing things. And sometimes your emotions can cloud what you see and what you hear. Your brain shuts certain things off or becomes super heightened onto certain things. I do think that her intention was to throw it to the floor. But let's not forget, by the time she flung it, she looked away. So she didn't actually see where the mic went. And maybe she was feeling so rageful that she didn't realise her own strength. So she didn't intend to throw it to wherever it went. But it did happen the way that we see it, even though the camera angle's a little bit suspicious.
I found myself at the back of the stage, and I was having a full-on breakdown at this point. I felt like I was on fire, and I felt like everyone in the room was laughing at me, and I felt like they were all in on the joke. And I realised that the entire X Factor team were in on it all day, if not from the beginning.
Okay, she said she found herself at the back of the stage. Well, actually, she didn't actually walk off. she got to the edge of the stage and she was greeted by her father. She even says it here, like, my father was there, he tried to hug me. I didn't see that myself, but she does look surprised to see him. Now she's going to say what her version of the truth is about what happened when her father joined her on stage.
And my whole body hurt. I wanted to burst into flames. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me, because I was so embarrassed. I was so broken at that point. And I remember my dad walking onto the stage, and he tried to hug me, but I wouldn't let him. I couldn't. The thought of anyone touching me at that point, it was like my skin was on fire. And anyway, he walked to the front of the stage on his own, and I ran off at the side.
I categorically did not leave the stage and subsequently return hand in hand with my father. Once again, the footage has been completely fabricated. Another example of the X Factor's over-imaginative editing.
I thought when I first watched this, is she seriously saying that they use CGI or something? She doesn't say in this video or the next one, but when I read the Ofcom report, she did allege that they use CGI. But the point is that unless they got someone who looked just like her to walk on stage holding her father's hand, and you can see from so many different camera angles that they were there together, that would have been so hard to edit and create. It is very, very difficult to do. But she does say, though, that, you know, how she was feeling, it's quite possible that she couldn't feel her father holding her hand, that she was somewhere else. She was so angry, she may not remember that moment.
So I ran for the stairs. Whilst I was doing that, my dad had walked to the front of the stage, and on the video you can't hear what he was saying, and I don't know what it looks like, but he said, "You have set her up, and you're not going to get away with this," and then walked off on his own.
If she had ran off and her father was on the stage on his own and she's saying you can't hear what he's saying, how did she know what he was saying? He didn't have a microphone, so her being backstage, she wouldn't have been able to hear what he was saying, unless he told her later, of course. But let's carry on.
I'd like to add that at no point during my audition did Talisa say, "Stay on the stage, stay on the stage." I mean, she would have had no reason to say that, because I was gone and my dad wasn't about to jump off the stage. And also, Nicole did not stand up and say, "No, baby, no." That did not happen.
She says she ran off the stage and she was not with her father on the stage. Now, we can see that that was the case. She stood there and swore at the audience. So is she saying she didn't do that? And that was when her father was with her. How can that be fabricated? And if she had gone and she was off stage, then she wouldn't be able to know either way what Nicole or Talisa said. Yeah, fine, she may well have been able to hear it in the microphones because the judges did have their microphones, but surely she wasn't concentrating on what the judges were saying. She was, as she said, she was having a breakdown. So she cannot say that. She cannot say that Talisa didn't say stay on the stage, and she says my father wasn't about to get off the stage. Apparently she was gone. She didn't see it. I'm sorry, but this is where I'm going to call a spade and say she's lying. Because what she is saying is incongruent. It does not match up.
So they were cut in afterwards to produce the footage for them to show in their fictitious...
Can she prove that? Does she know, was she there for that? That is just her word against theirs. And if you look at the actual footage, yeah, certain things can be, set up and and put in there, but it's a lot easier to do with one camera angle than it is to do with several, and to have the noise overlapping and everything. And we see several camera angles, and then we see her run off the stage with her father still standing there. And at one point she's on the floor, and you can see her hands sort of like behind her dad going, "I've been here all day." And I can imagine she said that. She was really, really broken down at this point, and I can understand it was really traumatic for her. But then she swore at them with her dad right there. That can't be fabricated. Sorry, it can't.
And I got to the side of the stage, and there was this massive stanchion. I shook it. I don't know why I shook it. I just shook it, and I didn't throw it over. I couldn't have possibly thrown it over because it was attached to lighting fixtures and attached to the other side of the stage. That was completely falsified.
Another example of the X Factor's creative editing.
This is another, I think, allegation of her saying that they use CGI. Now, when she approaches the stanchion, I mean, she says it was huge. It doesn't look that big, to be honest, but she says it was attached to lighting fixtures. But we see that stanchion earlier on as her father is approaching the stage. And it doesn't look like it's attached to anything, so it looks like it's possibly there just for show. When she grabs hold of it, her intention was probably to shake it, but because it wasn't attached to anything and it was just standing there, it looks like it fell very easily, that she didn't need to use a lot of force at all to throw it over. If you look at her head, she's not looking at the stanchion as she is shaking it, she's looking away. So she wouldn't have been able to see it fall, and also she wouldn't have been able to hear it fall because someone was right there and caught it, and they caught it quite easily. It wasn't heavy. So, again, I think she's saying from her point of view that that's apparently what she did, but you can't. I don't think that anybody could CGI that in. Ollie, the runner, was, moving throughout the whole shot and everything. I just don't think it's possible to doctor that. And again, I think that's what happened from her memory, but if you look at it back, say, hang on, when you shook it, it actually fell and somebody caught it, and then for you to turn around and say, well, no, you made that up. Just because you didn't see it happen, because you were looking the other way, doesn't mean it didn't happen.
The cameraman came up to me and put his camera in my face, and Ollie, the runner producer, was telling him to keep filming, and I looked in his eyes and I could see he was not happy about it, and I was begging him to stop. I was saying, please stop filming me, and at that moment I wanted to die, and I said, I'm going to kill myself. And I said that over and over, I'm going to kill myself, please get this camera out of my face, I'm going to kill myself. And that was the point where they put the X over my mouth.
This scene was cut from the broadcast footage and replaced with even more fabricated footage, which better suited their storyline, as it didn't portray me as aggressive. The real footage would have clearly demonstrated the broken and emotional state into which I had been bullied.
At which point I pushed the camera out my face, and that's when the footage on the X Factor video stops. But that is not where it stopped. I tried to push him out my face, and Ollie kept telling him to carry on filming. And my friend picked me up, and he carried on.
She said she fell down the stairs. Now, that wasn't shown, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. And where we catch up with her, she's been sort of held and handled by, I presume, her friends. But at the point the camera was in her face, she wasn't on the floor. She was on the other side of the railing, or the banister, and she was holding on to it. So nobody had to pick her up. And it was only when the camera went right up to her that she was talking to herself, and then she saw it, and then straight out, her hand went right out to the camera. In addition, ITV said in their side of things to Ofcom that at no point did she say she was going to kill herself. They had no reason to censor that out. Apparently, she said, "I'm going to kill someone." Again, we only have their word for it. So let's carry on.
I was crying, and I didn't know who I was, where I was, what was going on. I just wanted to die at this point because I was just so embarrassed.
I believe her. I believe she felt awful, beyond awful, and it's horrible to hear someone speak like that. That's how it was for them. And I'm not saying this was that everything that she's saying is a lie. I'm just saying there are certain things that I believe that either A, she's completely outright lying, or B, she's saying that's her point of view and that's it. There's no other version apart from her version.
He followed me. My friend was holding me to keep me still because I was ready to run. I was in fight or flight mode. I just needed to go. I ran, and the cameraman followed me to a certain point down the corridor, and then left. I ran out onto the street, and around about the same time, 2 X Factor producers came out and begged us to come back in. And I did not want to go back in. I wasn't having any of it. I just wanted to go. I just needed to get home and crawl up into a little ball and just try and process what had happened. But somehow they convinced me to go back in. When we got back in...
How much convincing would it take for someone in that much of an emotional state to go back in? If I were feeling that way, I'd go off. I'm gone. I'm not saying she's completely lying, but it doesn't seem to add up.
Another producer came out and said, "I don't want any more footage of this woman. I don't need any more footage of this woman." And at that point, I left and I legged it out of the building.
ITV did actually say why they did this. Normally, after acts that are highlighted or that are edited for TV are shown, they nearly always show the act leaving. On this occasion, they didn't carry on, and the reason they didn't carry on is because they didn't want to push her any further. And they didn't show that on television. And apparently she didn't leave the way that she said she left. According to ITV, she had kicked some equipment and slapped a producer. And apparently she says she pushed somebody, but she was actually arrested the next day. The police wouldn't have been involved if she had done nothing wrong. And also, before she ran off to hit that sanction, she's clearly seen lunging at a camera. Again, that can't be doctored. And she says again that, her father went on her own, she went off. Now, they could have exaggerated that by shaking the camera about a bit, and they added some sound effects, but the point is, she behaved that way, and they caught it on camera. It doesn't matter sometimes how much you edit something. You can't make something happen that didn't happen. Unless you could use CGI, but would they really go to those lengths? And if you say yes, but then you've got to think about the time it would take to do that, the equipment it would take to do that, money they'd have to pay people to do it, or overtime to do it, or whatever. There was 6 weeks between that happening and it being aired. It would have been very difficult for them to edit, splice and deliver and allow it to be broadcast and all CG'd in that time. Zoe repeatedly tries to make it seem as if that day was all about her. Everything was about setting her up to fail. Even if the X Factor wanted to show her on television, They cannot control over how somebody reacts or how somebody behaves. They can push someone to a point, even if they really wanted to bully the hell out of her. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get what they want. If somebody is going to kick off, sometimes even unprovoked, that's enough for them to edit and show to the audience because, yeah, it's there for entertainment purposes. You need to own your own role in that. What defines you is not what people say about you, it's how you react to it. For example, being a YouTuber, I know that YouTubers get hate. I've got hate. I'm probably getting hate right now. Couldn't care less. People can make videos about me the same way I'm making about Zoe. People can be as ruthless and as cruel to me as they like. But the point is, it's how I react to it that defines me. And the way I react to it, I just go, whatever.
To not run me over. I fell over again. My family and friends came out after me. We went back to the car.
So this is where the story of the day itself ends. And in the next video, I think it's best just to mention it rather than show it because it's going to go on for ages otherwise. She mentions that Ollie, the runner, that his footage of him running back when she came out and threw the stanchion over was fabricated as well. She said that he actually ran out of her way and nearly fell over the banister. The way she describes it is that Ollie looked like he was trying to protect the man behind him. If you look at it, he's actually sort of trying to get out of her way, and he's probably trying to protect equipment. He wasn't just going for, trying to save one person. And apparently Ryland Clark, am I saying that Ryland Clark? He apparently said that the crew were taking the mickey out of Ollie for quite some time because of how he reacted there, and apparently he'd nearly fallen over a banister. And Zoe takes that as validation that footage was made up. No, not at all, because he ran to a point that he nearly did fall over. That wasn't fabricated. He was running out of her way. She chose to push a camera twice. She chose to swear. She chose to shake, as she said, a stanchion. But even if you don't intend to, like if you're trying to push somebody out of your way or whatever, and that person ends up tripping and falling, you could say, well, I didn't do that. They tripped and fell. I didn't push them that hard. It was that actually similar scenario was actually on a Judge Judy episode years ago. So the point is that you cause something that caused something else to happen. She may not have intended to throw the stanchion over, but it happened. She did react violently. And I don't care how you're feeling. If you lash out and you hit equipment and you swear at people like that, that's your own doing, I'm sorry, but you need to take responsibility for your actions and ownership for your actions. I would have had a lot more respect for her if she had said, look, I did behave in an appalling manner, I do apologise, but the point is that the way that it's showing is she's making it all about everybody wanting to bring her down. And how would the X Factor producers know she was going to get 4 no's from the judges? She's not that bad. And so she was quite good. They did say that she showed real promise. It would have been easier for them to have targeted somebody who was really bad. They would have got a lot out of somebody like that. But with her, they didn't know she was going to be terrible, and she wasn't. They wouldn't have had a crystal ball to know how it was going to end up with a particular ending in mind. They don't know how she's going to react. And yes, they have to use editing. Unfortunately, they do, because they have to cut the running time down. And yes, it is edited for entertainment purposes, but completely fabricated footage shot that wasn't there. I don't think they'd go to those lengths. It would not be financially viable for them to do that. It would be time consuming. It would be pointless. It would be obvious. And some people actually, I've seen in some of the comments on her videos, some people actually agree, yeah, it does look like you and your father were edited in together. I went through it bit by bit of this video and I can't see anything that looks even suspicious, except that the microphone, a picture was shot of the microphone on the stage after it had been thrown. But then if you watch where the father and Zoe come back, I can't see the microphone anywhere on the stage. I've tried looking for it, and it could be that the lighting makes it difficult to see. It could be that someone had already just run in there and grabbed it. But I can't see at all that the microphone was CGI'd. I can't see that her arm was CGI'd. Because if that had been CGI'd, that would be the massive envy of the whole of the movie industry. If big budget blockbusters can't get CGI right, because they fouled up so many times, that would be absolutely groundbreaking, because it's clearly not CGI. Okay, so in conclusion, I don't think she's entirely telling the truth. Some people have said, how come it's taken her 8 years to talk about it? Well, it's exactly the same as I said with Wade and James with the Michael Jackson case on my true crime video. People tell their narrative when they're ready to. There's no time limit as to when you can actually talk about what happened to you as a traumatic event. You come out when it's your time. So that's not an issue. The issue is what she's saying here is, I did nothing wrong. They were all out to get me. This was made up. This didn't happen. And some of the things she's saying to me are absolute outright lies. It's very inconsistent. It may well have been edited really badly, but I'm sorry, you need to take responsibility for your actions. She could have just easily have just walked, handed a microphone to somebody and gone, right, come on, let's go. I mean, I know some people sort of like just try to hold her there to stop her from leaving, but she had the choice to keep herself calm and just go, I'm out. And she could have left, and when she was outside she could have screamed for the rooftops and let it all out. But she chose to swear at the judges. She chose to throw the microphone. Even if she did throw it to the floor, she threw it. She chose to shake, as she said, ascension. She chose to lash out at a camera twice, no matter what they were doing. And it wasn't right in her face, it was approaching her. Before we leave this video, just going back to Ofcom, Zoe did complain to Ofcom, her father complained to Ofcom. They made 2 separate complaints after they'd complained to X Factor, because you have to exhaust the complaints process of the company against whom you're making a complaint. And then they went to Ofcom. Now, Ofcom is a bit like an ombudsman. You know, like if you make a complaint to a financial company, you can go to the Financial Ombudsman Service. You make a legal complaint, you can take it to the Legal Ombudsman. But before you do that, you have to exhaust the procedure of the company. And Ofcom is an independent intermediary independent adjudicator who I think they are regulators as well. And they reviewed everything, including the unedited footage, and they did not uphold Zoe's complaint. Now, it's out there for you to read, and I'll put a link to the PDF for you. ITV mentioned that at the time, the X Factor was in its 9th series, and many people knew the kind of style that it was, and that people get yeses and nos, and they get positives and negatives. Now, if we take Zoe from what she said, she was bullied and it took her a lot to be able to get up there and do her pink acts and everything. She was probably very much used to praise. She was probably used to people liking what she did, and that's why she got the books, because they liked her. They weren't there to judge her. They were there to tell her what she wanted to hear, which was that she was good. And her father and her mother and everything, you know, she would have had the time of her life there. This is probably the first time she's ever actually had somebody say, you're not good, or you're not good enough. So that's really hard for someone to take, I can understand. ITV said, yeah, people get positive and negative comments from the judges, and that sometimes what people remember to have happened isn't exactly what happened. So sometimes if you say, I did this and that, but someone happens to be there with a camera, and they show you what actually happened, you'd go, well, I didn't see that. Well, yeah, you didn't see it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, because it's there, it's on camera. ITV's response to them saying that she should sing a pink song was actually supposed to be in her favour, because if she was good at singing pink songs, she'd be used to singing pink songs, that's what people liked, and that would put her in better favour with the judges. And other impersonators and tribute acts have been on before, and they've done really well. They may be wanting to find themselves as an artist, but that doesn't mean that people are going to get a no or be ridiculed just because they're a tribute act. ITV also emphasised that Louis said repeatedly, be you, and he did. you know, they were trying to move her away from the Pink Act. Again, the whole Pink thing is not the point of what happened. One thing that struck me was that in her complaint to ITV and Ofcom, she didn't mention about the 6 a.m. start. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. She also complained that her voice had been auto-tuned. You can tell when a voice has been auto-tuned. Not auto-tuned. Everyone will be able to tell if it's been auto-tuned, and you can hear it. It definitely was not auto-tuned. The only thing that I actually would say that the judges said that I didn't agree with was when Louis Walsh said, "Zoe, it was your audition and you messed up." That was uncalled for. To tell someone they messed up just because they're not quite good enough doesn't mean they messed up. No, I don't agree with that at all. So I do agree that was wrong. And then as soon as he finished, he looked right down. That is disrespectful. So even if Simon Cowell, you know, the one that we all think is really mean, even if he's there, he gives every contestant eye contact and he doesn't go, "Right, not looking at you anymore." That was uncalled for from Louis. So I can agree, you know, that probably did wind her up, saying you messed up. She's probably not been told that for a long time since performing as Pink, that she's ever messed up before. I think if the judges were in on it, they would have been really scathing in their comments and not even said to her, "Come back as Zoe. You could be good. You've got a lot going for you," or whatever they said. They would have been a lot worse, but they weren't. You know, if I'd been there and heard that, I'd have gone, "Okay, fine, fair enough." And other contestants have had much worse said to them. I don't care what you're feeling. You don't push somebody like that. You don't. That is actually assault. If you're going to, even if it's just the camera you end up hitting, someone's holding that camera and they feel it. You know, and knocking things over, criminal damage. And according to what happened with the police when she was arrested, she did slap a producer. She says she pushed her. I don't care if it was a push or a slap. You don't do that to somebody. That is it for this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Have a great day. Bye.